about signing up to be Toastmaster and you think, well, that's really hard, I don't know if I can do that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, because all you have to do is facilitate from point A to point B. And the way that that happens is already written down. That doesn't sound difficult. Now, there are challenges to facilitation. It is difficult to entertain and pause and fill gaps in time. It requires organization and practice. But you don't get that, and therefore you don't get any of this if you don't try. The second what around the purpose of being Toastmaster. What's the purpose? Yes, you're the facilitator. You're the time master. You're not the timekeeper. That's this lady like right here tonight. There is a timekeeper. The timekeeper is keeping time for that part of the meeting. They are not keeping time for the meeting. That's a huge difference. And we don't assign that role. We actually could probably use a meeting timekeeper, but it is the Toastmaster. So somehow you have to keep time in time with your timer without being overtly rude while you're on stage, because you have to keep things moving. And the third purpose, and I put this last in order, is you are the entertainer. Because you do have to be entertaining. I believe that Julio used energy in his intro, and you have to be energetic. You have to give out to the audience, because we all know, whether you're speaking as a formal speaker or an impromptu speaker or a role-based speaker, the audience feeds off of your energy. So if you're jumping up and down and loud, the audience is with you. They're smiling. People just smiled at me. Why? Because I'm giving out energy. So you have to give that energy and it'll come right back to you. Now, that feeds right into why most people are nervous to speak. Because you have all this energy pent up and you don't know what to do with it, and it becomes nerves. If you can figure out in the course of your speaking how to project that out to the audience, it will pay dividends back. More guaranteed than any stock market. It just comes right back at you. It's fantastic. It's a really good feeling. But it's hard to do because this is hard to do. And you can't do that without what? Practice. Have to practice. Now, the where to focus your energy is also important. We've covered the what. You facilitate, you time keep, you entertain. Okay. FTE, got it. What about the where? Where do I focus all this energy? I have energy. There's a lot to this. So this is the core of being the Toastmaster. This kind of sets you up. It's not what to do, it's how you do it. So the first thing you do is you fill roles. Now we're going to come back to roles in a minute. I'm actually going to show you Easy Speak toward the end of this presentation. I'm going to show you Easy Speak and how you fill roles. This is not a difficult thing to do, but it is a moderately time-consuming thing to do. I recommend doing it early and often if you are the Toastmaster, so that you can get it out of the way and then you can focus on your entertainment portion. The second thing that you have to do is you have to know the structure of what you're about to facilitate. It's hard to facilitate if you don't know the beginning, middle, and end, because you might have the end, middle, and beginning, and then it's all upside down and backwards. But again, I come back to the agenda. It's written down, and there's a script. Now this is where everybody goes awry. Everybody goes awry with the script. There's a giant script. It's horrible. Nobody's going to read a giant script and memorize it. This is exactly what we tell you not to do in public speaking. Why do we tell the Toastmaster to do this? I don't know. I don't know. It's horrible. Don't memorize the script. Do reference the script. It's an excellent reference point. I don't remember what the verbiage is for this. Our next speaker is blah, 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 and say their name and then the speech title and then the title and then their name. You'll get it off the script. It'll help you. But please, please, please don't think that by being Toastmaster you have to memorize a 20-page PDF document. You don't. It's horrible. Just use it as a reference. You have to be a role model. That is the biggest where to focus, is being a role model. What does it mean to be a role model in Toastmasters? It's the stuff that we cover with everyone, including being a speaker. One is something we already covered, energy. If you're up here like with a blah attitude and your shoulders and thumb down, and you're like, it's not going to be great. And if you're super nervous, that's okay, because that's energy that comes out. And guess what happens when you're super nervous the first time? Palms are sweating, you feel like, literally see it dripping down. The audience is with you, especially because we are in community and fellowship. The exact things we named, that's why we're here. So you'll get that back. Don't worry about the nervousness. Just put out the energy. A little bit more challenging to do is the flow. How do you get the flow to flow? You have to fill gaps in time. Sometimes the joke master's not ready. Sometimes your speaker's not ready. Last week, come to think of it, when I was facilitating as Toastmaster, my speaker wasn't ready because she had to wash her hands, because she was doing the food demonstration. You have to cover for that stuff. So you tell a story. I literally told a story about an experience that I had that I mentioned at the start of the Toastmaster meeting. I just came back to it. It became a theme. Good enough, it fills the gap. But you have to fill the gap with something, because if you look like you've lost control of the room, it's because you did. You completely lost control of the room. Not recommended. You have to have a partially blended meeting as Toastmaster. That means you get to practice formal speaking and extemporaneous speaking in the same meeting. You have to be ready with your formal portion, but be ready to fill extemporaneously to keep the flow. Comes back to this, that the only role that allows you to have comfort in discomfort, overcome fears, lessons, impromptu, and formal presentations. Only role. Table topics is just impromptu, formal speeches are just formal, evals are a little bit blended, but mostly it's been written down, not Toastmasters. So you get to flow between the two, and it's important to flow between the two. Now, there is a theme to the meeting. You choose a theme as Toastmaster. I'm going to show that in Easy Speak as well. And you want to follow the theme. Don't be a slave to the theme. I think what happens oftentimes when we come up as Toastmaster, we're trying to fill these gaps in time. And we get nervous and we talk when we're nervous and we just fill the time. More speech, is pouring out of you. You don't need to do that. And a lot of that with the theme is, well, I'm going to fill an extra 15 seconds by asking Katie, when she comes up as timer, to talk about my theme of sunsets. Katie, tell us about your most beautiful sunset. You don't need to hear that. If you have time and you want to integrate that, great, but don't be a slave to the theme. You don't need to, just because your theme is sunsets and you chose it because it happens to be the solstice, it's the longest day of the year, it doesn't mean that every speaker has to speak to the theme. You control the meeting. You're in charge. You're the Toastmaster. You facilitate. You have to learn to be quiet. This is a really hard one, and I've learned this the hard way, because I've been Toastmaster a lot, and earlier in my Toastmaster career, when we were waiting for votes to be tallied or we were waiting for feedback, I would fill with stories. I would fill the gap with stories, but people are trying to write feedback. Shut up. You don't need to talk. That's the beauty of being Toastmaster. It's knowing when to be quiet. And when you're quiet, what does the role model do? You're not the center of attention. You just, and people will be done, and they'll look at you like, Gary, you keep facilitating? No, there's 29 other people in the room. I'm sorry that you're done with your feedback, but the other people are not. And when the timer says 90 seconds are up, then you keep going. But there is room for quiet in there, and so that's okay too. And the tendency is to keep the flow by filling the gap. One way to fill the gap is with quiet. Just like in your speech when you get lost, you pause, you reset, then you keep going. Never abandon the stage. If there's no other rule as Toastmaster, this is a really good one. Stay here until the next person comes up, and if you see that person departing, literally run back to the stage. Run! No audience should ever look at an empty stage because it's a show. You're all watching the show. Nobody wants an empty stage with a show. So your job is to be here when nobody else is. And equally, not be here when somebody else is. So know when to sit down. It's okay to sit down or stand off to the side. For instance, I noticed Julio did a great job earlier of standing off to the side. Nobody noticed him because he was quietly standing off to the side, but it keeps the facilitation of the introduction of the participants going. You're empowered by being Toastmaster to be the mean person. You get to be the stickler. It doesn't mean you get to yell at people mean, but it means that you get to, if the meeting gets out of control, you get to say, Keith, we're back from break. Can we all please sit down now? Thank you. It's okay to get people back. We're adults, we have thick skin, we're all here to learn, we're all here to expose ourselves and be a little bit vulnerable, and sometimes that means telling people to shut up and sit down. That's okay. It keeps the meeting on time, and everybody else will appreciate that because you are the voice of the club in that regard. You are also the force of the handshake. If you don't stand here with the open hand, you're going to lose your participants and they're going to walk away and go sit down because most of the time people are caught in their own head. They're either very proud of what they just said or not so much. There's usually two options. And either way, they're running away. So you have to stand here with the open hand, and sometimes that means that, okay, I'm going to move on with the meeting. The person sat down, didn't shake my hand. That's okay. Just keep going. Another important one, and I'll leave you with this before I move into the demo. Ask for help. I just covered a lot of material. This is a lot to take on inside this. It can be overwhelming to think about all this at the same time. We are all here to help. But if you don't do it and you don't challenge yourself, you don't get to achieve this as quickly. Toastmaster is the fastest way to get to what you want to achieve. It is actually not speaking and filling up paths if you spoke every week for 12 weeks in a row. It's not. You won't be challenged because you're only practicing about a third of the skills up here. And you don't get any of the community. It's a very isolated exercise to creative speech until you call in somebody else to coach you. And it's still only 2 people. Toastmaster is a family. It requires you to reach out. So don't hesitate to reach out. I'm going to show you briefly what Easy Speak looks like as the Toastmaster. Because for those who haven't served as Toastmaster, you've probably never seen it. And it's not that much of a mystery. So this is Easy Speak, and I am logged in as the Toastmaster because I'm logged in as me. I didn't make myself Toastmaster. When you sign up for Toastmaster, either the president, the VP of Education, or somebody that has access will give you the Toastmaster role for the week. If it's Stephen, good luck, because you might be waiting half the week for the next. Sorry, Stephen, if you watch the video. Under meetings, you will see the next meeting, and if you scroll down, you will see the next meeting. There's multiple ways to get to the next meeting. I'm not going to teach you how to use the internet. It's not particularly difficult to click a link. When you go to the meeting, you will see all the detail for the meeting. You will see that there is a meeting theme that always says TBA until you fill it in. So we're going with summer solstice. Now, once you choose this, if you hit return, it will save. It is now there. It is forever written into the annals of Toastmasters. You can change it at any time until you do the second thing you need to do in Easy Speak. At least by my recommendation, which is find a grammarian. Because the grammarian has the word of the day, and you want the word of the day and the theme to go together, and you want to give them some time to think about it. It's a courteous thing to do. So go find your grammarian, fill in that role, and now you will have your word of the day, which is, what is it?
Marvelous.
Marvelous. It's a marvelous summer solstice. So now the grammarian's chosen the word of the day, and you notice I can change it. The grammarian can also choose it. I don't know if the grammarian has access to actually change it. I think they do.
Yes.
You will find it faster to help facilitate your team by just saying, hey, if you just give me the word of the day, I'll put it in. Way faster. If you tell somebody to go to Easy Speak, good luck. Better to facilitate it yourself. The rest of the roles, you will see every member in the club. I would not recommend just randomly assigning people to the role, although that is an option. The reason being, not actually because it will just make the person angry, but more that they will likely not show up to the club because they probably don't know that they've been assigned. They usually get an email that says they've been assigned a role. Not recommended. We all have our posse inside Toastmasters. All of us, it's just society. We all have our little cliques. Hit up your people. Hey, Robert, I'm Toastmaster this week. We've been through the trenches in YLP together a couple times. I really need an evaluator. Would you be an eval?
Sure, Gary, but I already signed up as your Tricks of the Trade.
Okay, thank you. Your Tricks of the Trade. I'll ask Terry. Terry, would you be my eval?
Sure.
Sure, see? That's all you gotta do. Hit up your posse. Just talk to your people. You have to be communicative and vocal because you are doing something for the club. You're the voice of the club. And you have to drag people into it because it's work. You gotta drag people in to do work. You fill up all your roles. Then you give it a little bit of time because you're not going to get every role filled. Give it a little organic time. And this is if you remember, we have meetings on Thursdays. You knew that you were Toastmaster at least that night, probably prior to that. Is there a reason that you're waiting until the following Tuesday to fill the roles in? Probably that's silly. Probably you're not working your hardest on Friday. I'm just guessing. Maybe it's just me. Probably have a little bit of time. On that 15 minutes on Friday, fill a couple roles in. Hit up your people, get about half of it filled, and then let it sit over the weekend, and then you'll see an option to send an email. And here, when you click this button, you get to compose an email. And I always stick to the first email. Don't worry that it says the third email. The interface always shows all the emails in there. And you'll recognize this. This is the email that we all get every week. Fill this in with whatever you want. You own it. Put in whatever you want. Don't delete the time. That would be silly. But if you need to say, hey, we need a general evaluator and a joke master, great, ask. This is your call to arms here. This goes out to every member, goes out to 60, 70 people. Then let it organically happen. Do this on the Friday, let it happen over the weekend, maybe even most of Monday. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, you have 2 full business days to fill the rest of the roles. And how do you do that? What you can do is look people up and say, hey, I haven't seen Alistair on the list, and I bet Alistair would be my general evaluator. I'll ask him. Now, I happen to have Alistair's phone number, so I probably would just text him. But if I don't, and many of us don't, if you click a name, and admittedly, okay, Easy has a few bugs, this is a bug. But you just expand here, and you can see there's the ability to email a member. You can email anybody. I click email. Look, it's an entire email. You can even send a copy to yourself. You can put in a link to the meeting. And I can say, hey, Alistair, here's a link to the next meeting. Would you be willing to be the general evaluator? Most people will respond. Some people will not. I would give it a few hours, then move on to the next person. And if somebody comes back, guess what? You usually have more than one role to fill. So you can say, hey, that filled up, but would you be grammarian? Yes, I would. Okay, now you filled multiple roles. You have to be proactive in outreach. This is part of asking for help. Asking for help is asking, sure, to other people that know how to be Toastmaster. It's also asking people in the club to fill the roles. That's all I'm going to show for Easy Speak. The last thing that I'm going to say before I make you all go completely to sleep is, as the audience, i.e. the participating Toastmasters viewing the meeting, I love the tricks of the trade today because yes, you have to be energetic. You also have to participate. So when the Toastmaster asks you, sure, you'll feel on the hook to do it. So ask yourself if it behooves you to have a good meeting. If it benefits the club and the community and drives fellowship and helps accountability, why aren't you signing up? It's very strange that we call ourselves leaders in training. We come here for self-accountability and positive energy and output and confidence, but we don't have the confidence to click a button to sign up for a 30-second speaking role. So please, sign up, because all of what I just said is significantly easier if all of you fill the roles for whoever the Toastmaster is that. And with that, I will get out of your hair and return the meeting back to Julio. Thank you for your attention.